I'll be honest with you guys, though, tonight's show does not have a plethora of notes. In that I just want my intro, my outro, and the rest of it is going to be me talking to you guys tonight. So, welcome to the How2Dad Podcast. My name is Devin Pierce. I am your host this evening, as I am every Sunday, live on Mixer. If you guys haven't come over and checked us out on Mixer, if you're watching this on the YouTube replay, thank you. I appreciate you. Much like I appreciate this cup I stole from my wife. So guys, each week I bring you tips, tricks for adulting, parenting, and life as a whole. And I share the tools from my toolbox with you to help make you better equipped for life's great adventure. You may have noticed I have my ears lowered and my chin raised. So you might be thinking to yourself, well, the How2Dad Podcast, episode 11 is called How to Parent. That's a pretty ambiguous title, isn't it? No real definition or explanation to it. And that's kind of why I picked it. And it's also why we're late starting the live show tonight. By 4 hours-ish. Almost 4.5 hours. So what I mean by this is that today we decided to just be good parents. We took the time to indulge our children in their curiosities and their personal quirks. And this started actually out with us helping a friend of my spouse's, co-workers of hers, actually, who wanted some practice taking some photos and offered to do family photos of us in exchange. She gets practice, we get photos. So we all got divvied up in our Sunday best, and we went out. And we did these photos. It was rather late this evening. It was just before we normally start the podcast. While we were out there, we let the kids run amok, climbing trees and playing with sticks and running in the mud and climbing things and just having fun. Now, for those of you who haven't checked out our family YouTube channel, which there are links to in the description if you're watching the YouTube replay. If you're live in the chat, you can actually go !geocaching, and it'll drop a link in the chat for you. How convenient is that? Pretty snazzy, actually. One of the many things I've had to learn in creating a live podcast. And the reason why I bring up the geocaching is because we went and we decided that we're going to go geocaching after these photos. Because the kids wanted to go geocaching. But we came home. I had a geocache I had to put back out because it needed some maintenance, so I brought it home. And the end result was the spouse and I grabbed a couple caches, and one was a fair ways off the trail, so she stayed in the car with the kids, and I went and got the last one. And I laughed to myself as I'm walking up this hill, thinking to myself, oh, I'm sure glad the kids wanted to go geocaching, since if I looked around right now, I'm the only person geocaching, and well, I did have some other things I wanted to do, right? If you follow me on Twitter, you will have seen that I am about 8 days behind in editing and publishing of videos and content for my various YouTube projects. And I'm okay with that. I'm even okay with the kids not getting out of the car and going geocaching. They ate their supper in the car. The spouse and I got to just drive around and had a little bit of a goal, which was fun. And we went grocery shopping afterwards, picked up a couple of things. The spouse and I made supper, and she actually got together with the boy and did a project of magic rocks. My mother got them for him. So while I cooked supper, she did these rocks with the kid, and they're going to grow in whatever, in the special solution of water and chemicals that they say don't let touch your skin, any wood surfaces, or life form, basically. Even though this isn't really what we wanted to be doing at, say, 8:30 at night on a Sunday evening. For those of you who aren't in Canada, you might not be aware, it is our May-long weekend. And so there's no school for the kids tomorrow. So let them stay up, let them have a good night, right? We did the rock thing. I made supper. And whilst doing that also, I took a plastic display that we have and wrapped a baby blanket around the bottom 3/4 of it. Because the other day, my 6-year-old followed the instructions in a Dogman book, which is the same people who do the Captain Underpants books. And he made these little puppets with putting them on popsicle sticks and cutting them out once he was done coloring them. And he wanted to do a puppet show. And this kid's been honest for days about wanting to do this puppet show. And it inspired his younger sister to make a couple puppets of her own, which is really cool. And so this evening as we ate our supper, they decided to put on their puppet show. So my kids got to bed at now. They're probably still awake, laying in bed going, this was the best day ever. And they had fun. And we recorded their videos, or made videos of them doing their little puppet shows. And there was no rhyme or reason to anything that was going on there. But they were excited. And they were excited for each other, They'd be asking questions to the audience, and the other one who's sitting there is just yeah, just so excited for the other kid and their show, and just so enthralled with it. And it was awesome. Even though it was probably the worst acting I've seen in years, it was definitely the best show on earth. Because it was my kids. Yes, my podcast is 4.5 hours late. Instead of doing a show with proper notes and teaching you guys something, I'm rambling on about some craziness that happened in my day. But this is how to parent. I read a post. Actually, it was a article for, I want to say it was on cbc.ca or whatever. And the CBC had this independent writer do kind of a opinion segment on how my generation, the millennials who are parents, make parenting way more complicated than it needs to be. It talks about how when we were kids even, we still went to the neighbor kid's house to find somebody to hang out with. Nowadays, people are texting other parents to see when it works best for their kids to come over and spend time with their kids. As an example of how things have shifted socially for parenting and organizing things for our kids. I mean, hey, it's good to organize things for your kids, but the spontaneousness is good too. While kids do need some form of structure and routine, which if you would like to know more about that, you can go ahead and check out episode 2 of the podcast where we talked about the benefits of routine. But much like kids need loose parts to play with, they also need loose, unstructured time. You can go ahead and watch episode 1 if you'd like to know more about that. I don't even need a voice mixer on this thing, eh? I can just do whatever voices I want. Although there are some really cool voice effects on this machine, I'm not gonna lie. Another really great example in the last couple of days here. I've kept with our routine of having the kids clean up before we eat. I've moved it around on them though. And I've done it after breakfast one day, after lunch one day, and after just before supper. So I've created this inconsistency in when it happens, but the behavior of cleaning up before we sit down to eat is still being accentuated. And then when we've had extra time, I've been making sure the kids spend a lot of time outside. And none of it structured. None of it guided. I just put boots and a coat on them and say, tally ho. My kids have had, I'm not going to say the best behavior. There's been some issues. I mean, they're kids. They're still learning. And that's just kind of the reality of it, right? But you will find that the problem behaviors are so minimal when you really step back and look at it. As long as your kids are having fun and they're doing so in a safe and acceptable manner, you can pretty much let them run rampant. I was really proud of my kids today as they did their little puppet shows and how they interacted with each other. It was inspiring. Because like I said, there was no rhyme or reason to what they were doing. But just their energy made that the best part of my day. You know, that is also how to parent. You need to learn not only to step back and let them have a bit of freedom, but you need to learn how to involve yourself in the moment with them. And that's the hardest part of parenting in today's society, especially. We have so many different things pulling our attention all the time and different people wanting our attention. And on top of that, you have things like social media and Discord channels and, you know, whatever else you want to get into. Game of Thrones, although I guess that's finished now. But it's not really about finding a balance between the amount of time you're spending. It's more about finding how to ensure you are part of the moment you are in. If you're with your kids, being with your kids mentally as much as physically. If you're watching your favorite show, being engaged in your favorite show. Or if you're like my household and you never turn the TV on, just hold your spouse's hand once in a while. Even when you're not doing anything important. My spouse, a couple of times in the last week or so, she's had a couple extra days off with the holidays and whatnot, has been like, do you want to hold my hand? If you're new in a relationship, by the way, the answer is always yes. If you're not new to a relationship, you already knew that answer. I'm going to give you a little tip too. Try and guide your life so that that question doesn't have to be asked. So this is a little self-reflection for me. The fact that this question has been asked so much recently shows me that I need to put a little bit more effort in being in the moment when I'm spending time with my spouse, so that she doesn't feel the need to ask me to hold my hand, but just does because she knows it's already okay. And I would ask you to do the same for your children. Kids grow up so amazingly fast. Like, if you don't have kids already, you have no concept of time now. And whatever ideas you thought you knew about time, gone. My spouse always was joking as Odin got near the 1 year mark. She talked about how she remembers distinctly that the first 4 or 5 months flew by. The last month in pregnancy felt like it took a year. And that's just a slight example about how time twists and bends. And sometimes doesn't even exist when you have children. And that's kind of what was the best part about this evening. Yeah, my kids are going to bed really late. I have to get up and go to work at 3 o'clock in the morning. So I'm going to be tired tomorrow. But it doesn't matter because my kids knew I was in the moment with them. And my kids will probably talk about and remember this little puppet show for years. And if I leave the little puppet stand up, they're probably going to do a whole bunch more puppet shows. We might even get more puppets. Simply because it was something that brought all of us together. And they felt our love. So it's going to be a short episode tonight. Like I said, guys, I have to get to work yet in the morning. Bright and early. I start at 3 a.m. 4 days a week, 12 hours a day. There may or may not be an episode next week. Fellow podcaster did offer to let me use their laptop at their hotel room if I wanted to do a podcast live on location. That's pretty cool. I don't even think I said what date it is. I usually do that at the start of these, don't I? Whoops. It's currently May 19th, 2019. Next week's episode on the 26th of May may or may not happen. Question for the week. We need a question for this week. What should we ask? In your experience, let me know what moments in your life that time happened but didn't exist. You blink and all of a sudden hours have gone by and you're excited for hours more to disappear. I think that's a pretty great question for this week, guys. Thanks for watching. You might not have learned anything this week, but just know I love you guys. The How2Dad Podcast is owned and operated by myself, Devin Pierce. It is licensed under Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share Alike 4.0 International License, all rights reserved. And we are currently available on Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, Overcast, Pocket Casts, and RadioPublic. If you'd like to have us expand our audio availability to other platforms, let us know. If not, I guess you won't. Have a good night, everybody.